practice your skills in terms of measuring angles. We're going to be using triangles today. So, but you can obviously use a protractor to measure other angles also. First of all, I need to review with you the basic steps of measuring with the protractor. Your first step, and I have one over here that's I can write on because if I touch my other protractor, it shifts size, turns, whatnot, is you need to line up the base of your protractor on one of the sides of your angles. In this case, we're going to be using a triangle. And you want to make sure that the curved part of your protractor is resting on the rest of the triangle. So when I say the base, this is the base. Now it's going to vary on protractor, like this one has a little bit of space here. You can see where it's not the very bottom, but I need to make sure that this crossbar right here, where I have these two lines meet, is actually touching the corner of one of my triangles. Okay, so that's going to be my first step, is to make sure that I get those lined up and then make sure that my base is lined up on that edge. So I'm going to go ahead and start with triangle, or with angle A. So it's just easier for me up here to line up the crossbars, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually see if I can enlarge this protractor really quick to make it easier for you guys to read it. So I'm going to go ahead and line up my crossbars on the corner, and now I'm going to go ahead and turn it so that my base lines up on the other edge of that triangle. My next step is to go ahead and see where it crosses. Now it's not exactly perfect, but it crosses approximately this spot right here, and I cannot mark on my protractor because it'll move my protractor. So I have two angle measures there. I either have 60 or I have 120. The easiest way to decide whether it's a 60-degree measure or a 120-degree measure is to go ahead and peek at that angle and decide, is that an acute angle or an obtuse angle, or right. I know that that's an acute angle, a cute little angle. It's less than 90 degrees. So since I know that, I'm going to go ahead and look at my 2-degree measures. I either have 60 degrees or 120 degrees, and I know that 60 is an acute angle, and I decided that it was an acute angle on the triangle. So now I'm going to go ahead and work off of the next angle. So I'm going to have to turn my protractor. I might be able to slide it for this one just right over to C. Make sure my crossbars are lined up on my C angle. And I'm not doing them in order just because of then I don't have to move or rearrange my protractor. And make sure that the base is lined up across that bottom line of the triangle. And now I see that it's crossing through this measure right here. So once again, I have a 120 or a 60-degree measure to choose from. So if I shift this up, I can see that this measure is an acute angle. So my acute measurement on there, 60 or 120, well, 60 degrees again. So I just found out that C is 60 degrees. Now, I know some of you probably remember from previous learnings that a triangle has 180 degrees. So some of you might be able to already figure out what B is. If you didn't, the whole point of this investigation is for you to find out that a triangle has 180 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and now move my protractor around. I'm going to have to shift a little bit. It's probably easier for you when you guys are using your protractors versus for myself up here. But I'm going to have to line that up, my crossbars up, and now I'm going to have to turn my protractor. Now, I don't want to turn it like this. And the reason is it does not complete the last part of that number 1 that says, make sure that the curved part of the protractor is on the rest of the triangle. So I'm going to have to keep turning this until my curved part of my protractor is on there and I have the base lined up. Shift this just a little bit. Okay, so there it looks like it's lined up pretty good. And I can see, once again, that my number, or my edge, my other edge is cutting right through that 60 and 120. So if I take a peek at this angle, that angle B looks to be like it's an acute angle there. So acute, 60 or 120, which one's acute? 60 degrees. So I know that that triangle is 60 degrees. Okay, so I ended up with all of these being 60 degrees. Okay, so if you look at your, in your book on page 3, you have the same figures that I just did, and we just did letter A together. So this was 60 degrees. This was 60 degrees. C was 60 degrees. And then A plus B plus C gave me 180 degrees. So I just found out that that triangle has 180 degrees. Okay, so now you're going to go ahead and do the same process with B, C, and D. And if you need to reference back how to line up your protractor, just rewind this video and practice on your B, C, and D as I do those steps. You'll want to go ahead and pause your video so that you can have time to go ahead and measure those. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give you the answers for B, just so that you can kind of check yourself. For letter B, you should have ended up with a 90-degree angle for A. For B, it was 45. And for C, it was 45. Now, if you were slightly off, don't worry about that. I know there is some slight room for error in there. And then, once again, we should have ended up with 180 degrees. Okay, for C and D, you can see me for those answers if you need them so that you can check yourself. And don't worry if you're slightly off.